Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It is 9 a.m. on Friday, so you know what this is. This is our weekly Friday Friends show, and I am Deb Burton, the host of the show and executive director of RI Elder Info. RI Elder Info maintains the most comprehensive resources for seniors, caregivers, and professionals here in Rhode Island, and I'm sure you've taken the moment to check it out. If not, after the show, please visit rielderinfo.com. As I say every week, we are a nonprofit and we could not do what we do here for the public without the support of our sponsors. So a huge shout out to our new sponsor, Aetna. Aetna is a wonderful insurance company here in Rhode Island. Oak Street Health, they have locations in Warwick, in Providence, and Woonsocket. United Healthcare, they are also a wonderful Medicare insurance company here in the state. And Tamarisk Assisted Living, they really treat your loved ones like family. I encourage you to reach out to Sean or Susan there if you or someone you know needs assisted living. And the magic that you're seeing right now, that wouldn't be possible without the help of Ben Barber of 321 Media. He is the Oz behind the curtain for me. And when you have visited rielderinfo.com, you have seen the magic of England Studio. They're an award-winning web design team right here in Rhode Island. Happy to help you design a beautiful, well-thought-out website anywhere in the world. So what we do would not be possible without their support. So I wanted to tell you, I am really excited to talk to my guest this week. He is a wealth of information, but he's also the head of the Senior Center Directors Association, and they have done the bulwark throughout COVID. So I'd like to welcome up Bob Robillard. Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. You know, I was just saying that the senior centers really did the bulwark during COVID. And, I spoke to you, I think it was March 13th, Friday the 13th of 2020, everything shut down. Like, oh my God. And I think I probably spoke to you like the Monday or Tuesday of that coming week because my thought was, my God, people go to the senior centers for meals and it's all shut down. And you had the best statement. You said, our doors may be closed, but our hearts are open and we're still here for our people. So throughout COVID, what was the senior centers able to get done? How did things change and have they changed back? Can you share that with us?
Sure. It's kind of a no-brainer for us because we address social isolation every single day, and people's health and wellness. I mean, that's what we do. We connect people to services. We make sure that their needs are being met, and if we can't meet them, we're going to connect them to someone else that can. During COVID, just a little background. I mean, we did. Our association has 30 senior center members, 30 senior centers across our state are part of our membership. So we collaborate all the time. And during COVID, we actually had to pivot from in-person services to virtual services, and also make sure people were able to get their basic human needs of food, getting their prescriptions, getting their connecting to their doctors. A lot of the work that we did was also making sure that they got their vaccinations. Our staff manned a variety of the local clinics, but also the regional clinics as well. We work very closely with our emergency management agencies to make sure that our most at-risk seniors and folks with disabilities in our community were serviced. Our focus was making sure that they were not disconnected from those services. So we did a lot of telephone outreach. Some of our centers have a program where we can do robocalls as well. So we can do a combination of emails and texts and making sure that we were connecting people, giving them the information, because it was very scary initially. And I mean, one of the things about COVID for our seniors, they were the most seriously affected. They had the largest loss of life, loss of connection, loss of access to services, and also suffered social isolation. One of the things we look at when we talk about social isolation, I always think of like when someone is having really poor behavior when they're incarcerated, right? The worst thing they can do is put them in solitary confinement. Our entire society was in solitary confinement. And our seniors, who one of the great things that our senior centers do is connect them and make sure that they are socially interacting and have not only friendships develop, but also are part of their community. So we, during COVID, isn't different than what we do every day. We just had to pivot and make sure it was really focused on making sure people weren't lost in the shuffle and making sure that their health needs were prioritized and their basic human needs were met.
It's interesting to think of what the world was like pre-COVID, because when everything shut down and everyone was told stay home for 2 weeks, watching the comments on social media, there were people who were really losing their mind having to stay in the house for 2 weeks, and you can't go to the grocery store unless you absolutely have to, or you can't, go wander the malls or shop and things like that. And people were really losing their minds about that. And yet it's almost as though, maybe not you and I, but it's almost as though society has an expectation that as we get older, staying at home, like all of us had to do for those 2 weeks when we lost our minds, like, well, that's the expectation for our older adults, is that they should be fine with, just sitting at home. And where maybe many of us were connected electronically, online, our older adults don't necessarily have that ability to be connected online. And I think it's really important for the world to understand that most of us experience that for 2 weeks. But the idea of staying in your house day after day is not a good choice unless it's something that you really don't have an alternative to. And the importance of the senior centers to get people connected. So, like, pre-COVID, did you guys do home delivered meals, or was that in the Meals on Wheels wheelhouse? Or did you have like the health clinic set up so that people could come in and get vaccines? Was that pre-existing infrastructure, or was that something like you guys just had to like figure it out and figure it out fast because the need was so great?
I think the answer is yes to both of those questions. A lot of the Meals on Wheels deliveries come out of our senior centers.
Okay.
We have a huge, vast array of volunteers that we couldn't do very much with any of the service or meet our missions without. So we have seniors that are, and folks in our community that are dedicated to making sure that that one point of contact, that if you're delivering a meal to someone, is a connection, right? We always look at connections. This is one of the strengths of senior centers, is they build connections, whether it is nutrition and bringing those, meals out in the community. We also have meal sites at our facilities too. So if people come and have a congregate meal and be able to socialize and then participate in our wellness programs too. But during COVID, we pivoted to having those meals that normally people would come in for get delivered. So I can tell you, we are only as good as our volunteers. Every single one of the centers, and I have to say this, their staff had stepped up. They stepped up to meet their community's needs. They know their community. They know their constituents better than anyone else. Every senior center is located in a neighborhood. So to be able to be part of that community and be a resource, that's actually a lot of centers are looking, like we changed our name from Coventry Senior Center to Resource and Senior Center, because we deal with resources for families. We deal for resources for elders, individuals with disabilities. So to look at a big picture of, you need to be that hub of service. And that's one of the things we really, I think, exemplified during COVID was, hey, we already do this. We needed to switch how we did it, And we also did it for more people that didn't normally come in and receive services here. We did it for our whole community. I know, for instance, the director, Dina, at Situate, pulled all of their seniors that were in need and did a lot of communities did this, but I think we always look at best practices
Yep.
and looking at like sharing information. That's one of the great things about our group is you have all senior centers and they're all unique, right? But they
Yep.
also have a commonality of, you're trying to do your best to make sure that the people that have the highest need in your community are receiving the services that they need. And we see our seniors as kind of during COVID, they were a marginalized population.
Yo, you can say that again.
I mean, I'm trying not to be, to overplay that, but, connecting people to resource and wellness services is what we do every day. So it wasn't just another day, but we're so, I think, connected to what the needs of our seniors are, that, okay, that's what they need. That's what we'll do. Right. So everybody just ran with it because that's what we do every day. We want to make sure that we're, our whole goal, I always say, is to make ourselves obsolete, right? To get people connected, then they can do their thing, right? People want to age in the community. They want to stay in their house. They want to have as much ability to interact with their community as they choose. And they also should have whatever resources they need to make that happen. And I think that's a lot what senior centers do, is not just for folks that come in for services, but to be open to doing intergenerational programming, having kids and seniors together. That's actually today at our center, we have a monthly breakfast where the kids from the culinary program make a full breakfast. We have 125 people out in our meal site right now that are having breakfast so it's all connections, right? So if you can get kids connected to seniors and seniors connected to seniors and all those people connected to services, then you're building community. And I think that's one of the definitions that the senior centers should be ascribing to. And I think that's what we are doing is, we connect people to vital services, but we connect people to each other. Because if you don't redefine what community is by building community on a consistent basis, and I think that's one of the great things that senior centers did through COVID. They are able to maintain that community for people that were disconnected. And I think that's something I'm very proud of the work that senior centers do in our state. But also, we have and I go back to the volunteer piece, because without that vast array of people who care and want to make a difference in their community, we couldn't do half of what we're able to do. So to do a shout out to the folks that care about their community and are invested.
Yep.
One of the things we do at senior centers is that we can help those people connect to something that has meaning for them, whether it's volunteering Meals on Wheels or working in our meal site or at our food banks or in our community gardens, or making we have a Project Linus. I'm not sure if you know about that, but some seniors knit blankets for newborns. So that whole gamut of infancy to elders, there needs to be a flow of how do people stay connected and have meaning in their daily lives. And if you're helping the people that need help in your community, there's a really good fulfilling feeling that comes with that, in a connection that if people have intent to do that in every community in our state will be a better place to live.
The world would be a better place to live. So I'm going to ask a question that I get pushback when I talk to people about going to the senior center. So I just want to hit it straight on. There are a lot of folks out there who say, I don't want to go to the senior center because it's for old people. Can you please share what kinds of awesome things that are happening at the senior centers that can dispel that myth?
Well, I always start with the premise that we're all aging, right?
Amen.
Better than the alternative, right?
Absolutely.
But the fact that we are is, we're all individuals and we all have different needs, right? And the definition of senior center needs to be, I think, more discussed more. This is a great opportunity because a lot of folks think of us as either a place where old people go or a glorified bingo hall. Uh, so
Yes, I hear
we're
bingo
neither,
mentioned a
we're
lot.
neither of those things. We're neither of those things. We actually are a place where there's we're vitality centers and resilient building centers. There's some change agents that are in each senior center that actually invest their time and their energy to make sure that there's um, wellness programs around yoga and tai chi and exercise programs. We have walking clubs and running clubs. We have connections with recreation throughout the state. Um, those connections, those bridges, you don't have to be um, in your eldest years to participate in. And we look at when people retire, what do they want to do? You
Right.
know, some people have means to do certain things and some people don't. Some people have just don't know what we do. And that's why I think, like I talked about this breakfast that we have. We had 25 new people come in this morning that had never been in a senior center. This place is pretty cool. And then they see our newsletter, which is 18 pages of goodness, is what I call it. And this isn't just our center. This is senior centers across the state that we are looking to engage people pre-retirement so that they have a plan. One of the things we know is, at least historically from my experience, I've only been doing this 30 plus years, but the fact is that people really aren't fully planning on not just financially what they need to do for retirement, but what they're going to do with their time. And a lot of folks, when they retire, kind of are stagnant. They're kind of lost. And one of the things we find is if you we can give them a cadre or a menu or an option, a buffet of options for, like, what do you want to do with your time? Do you want to volunteer? Do you want to participate in wellness? Do you want to stay fit? Do you want to, socialize and just come in and socialize, or play bocce, or just kind of find your niche? And I think that's one of the things when people are working, that's their niche. You know how much time they spend at work, right? What
Oh,
do you do?
yeah.
What do you do after that? Or what do you do to prepare for what happens after that? And that's a big thing right now with the baby boomers retiring. We are going to have a huge need for innovative, connective, wellness based, and kind of we need to get informed from this generation on what they want out of a resource center, not just a senior center, right? That it's not just a place where old people come and spend their day. It's a place where friends meet and groups and like-minded people can come and discuss current events, or a place where you can just come in and hang. It's not a problem. I think it means different things to different people, and that's the way it should be. It should be multiple definitions. And one of the things, as I meet with my colleagues around our advocacy for seniors, is always we need to be prepared for this next wave of folks that are going to need our services. What's that going to look like? The same goals are remaining in the community for as long as you can, staying as healthy as you can, getting the most out of every minute of your life, whatever that is, whatever gives you meaning, whatever gives you hope, whatever keeps you motivated. And one of the things we're finding is, because of COVID, in that isolation, it wasn't just isolation for seniors, isolation for kids and families.
Yes.
And we actually have a lot of seniors who are providing, direct care for their grandchildren, right? So they were learning how to tutor their grandchildren at the same time they're trying to figure out what's going on. And that happens with families, all generations. And the fact that one commonality that we have is this has been a relatively traumatic loss of control for folks. And how do we prepare them with resources? Because one of the things we haven't talked about, Deb, is mental health, and it's the mental health impact, not just for children, not just for families, but for elders. And they have the most experiential credits on the planet, right? Our oldest people have been through many things and had to adapt. So to be able to learn from seniors on what resiliency looks like is a real important thing. So that's one of the groups that we're doing, as well as our breakfast this morning. Is there's a group of 21 students from our middle school and our seniors getting together, doing some expressive arts and talking about what isolation was, what COVID effect was, and where you want to be, and the commonality and humanity piece that we all suffer, we all have to have resources, we all have to have connections. I think more now than any time before because of all that big disconnect and that isolation that happened during COVID.
And one of the things that you mentioned a vitality center, and I think that might be a great name change for the whole senior center concept is to make it a vitality center. And how do we live resiliently as we age? But I really like your intergenerational programming. It was not that many decades ago. Okay, maybe it was 50 or 60 years ago, but in a family generation, that's not a lot. There used to be multiple children in the house. Mom and dad and their parents would be in the house, and it would really be a collective family unit. People would live, side by each, or the triple decker was really the three generations, and we all worked together. But then there was a period of time where we had fewer children. The world is such that we're more spread out, and it has really necessitated us finding, of course, we have our blood kin, and indeed, not even everybody does have blood kin at this point, but finding our family of choice as well. And it sounds like from what you're describing at the senior centers with the multi-generational aspect that you have greater opportunities to make those connections and really kind of create families of choice in a senior center setting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think one of the important parts of that doesn't happen by accident, right? You have to
Mm.
kind of formulate the environment. You need to do collaboration with, a lot of our centers collaborate with our local school districts and also local community mental health providers and community health providers, because one of the things we do is we connect people. So who do we connect them to? We're not the only show in town, right?
Right.
We meet certain needs, but the need of connection is the global need that everyone has. So how do you get people to the services that they need, or just to, like you say, not necessarily have that bloodkin family, but how do you develop? I mean, there's a lot of folks that come to our center who have lost their spouse or have lost a child or have lost just like you said, family has moved away and they're still here. So what do I had one lady talk to me the other day about the importance of the senior center, and she talked about kind of her world closing in after her spouse passed and
Mm.
not being able to kind of move forward. And that first step in the door here, that makes or breaks what happens, right? We have an incredible, and I know not just me, every center has that front desk person who's welcoming and who says, we're glad you're here. This is what we have to offer. We're excited that those interactions, that first step make a huge difference. And now you have people that have been part of our senior center family for years and are bringing new people in, and they're the kind of the hosts that walk them through and say, this is what they do here, this is what they do here, and this is the services that they provide, and here's the newsletter, and here's the menu, and we'd love to have the first time you come here, it's on us. We try to make sure people are as welcomed as possible, because that's what people need. People need to feel welcome and part of something. That's one of the things about being the social beings that we are. We need to have that opportunity. So it doesn't happen by accident. You have to foster that opportunity thoughtfully and planfully. And every center across the state has their version of that for their community, for those folks that are in the neighborhood in which the senior center is located. Knowing your constituency is the strength that I can say every senior center director in the state and their staff work tirelessly on making sure that they know that the people that walk through the door are valued, and we are going to make sure we get you what you need. And it's like customer service 101, but it also is kind of our mantra of how do we, we're here for a reason. We're not here just because, we open the door. We're here because we want to impactfully change people's lives for the better.
And you bring up a really good point. So if there's an individual watching and maybe they've thought about going to the senior center, but one of the things that doesn't really necessarily change as we get older is it's not necessarily comfortable being the new kid in the cafeteria because you have those worries, will they like me? Will people talk to me? Will I know anybody? Who will I sit with at lunch? So, if someone is in Woonsocket or Tiverton or Bristol or Coventry or North Kingstown, do the senior centers have someone that if you're brand new and you're walking into the senior center for the first time and you want to check it out, but you don't know anybody or you don't know if you know anybody, are there ambassadors there that can help that person walking in for the first time besides the front desk person? Are there
Absolutely.
people there who can be friends?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Everybody that comes to our center that's been here for a while has
Mhm.
made that first step, right? They know how difficult it is, and a lot of their kind of response to me on what worked for them is someone took them under their wing, introduced them around, showed them what we do, made them feel at home, and also just kind of got to know them. And we have really 20, 30-year friendships that have developed as a result of that. That people, they don't meet just here at the center, right? They meet out in the community. That's what the goal is, right? The goal is
Right.
to, you don't have to just come to our center. I mean, you can do that, which great. That's what we're here for. But the lifelong friendships that happen, that non-blood kin thing you talked about, is really what the strength is of community building, right? They're going to go out and do things together. Two people that were not, that were isolated previously and disconnected. And one of the great things is people that have lived that, and that's people, everybody who's come in this building, right? And every
Mhm.
senior center has made that first step at one point. And it was that first contact and the success of, hey, guess what? You're part of, you know, I've been there before. I walked the walk, right? I've been that first step, and it's not easy. And asking for help's not easy, or just meeting new people is not easy for some folks.
Yeah.
To be able to, we do have ambassadors. We have a lot of our board members have been here for quite some time too, because our board is made up of folks that utilize our services. So to have them come in and say, "This is what we do, and this is where we go," and sit with me. I'll introduce you around. I know it's overwhelming when there's a big room full of people, or there's just and that for people, it's interesting because people who have that first step to come into our meal site, then they'll have that kind of hesitancy to start their first class. And then once that happens, it's kind of like a domino effect. Then you have, oh, I told my friend Betty, now she's coming over. I told my friend Joe, now he's coming over. So they come in groups too after that too. So it's great to see kind of that community build. And the more that you can see that our senior centers aren't a place for people to decline, it's a place we talked about vitality, but to realize like there's so much more to life in staying in your house, and keeping to yourself, because we know that isolation, there's a decline in health, mental health. Um, Isolation is actually more damaging to you health wise than smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. So if you look at just the benefits of not being isolated, and that's one of the things COVID has taught us, isolation bad.
Yes,
Very bad. The worst thing that can happen to a human is for them to be alone.
absolutely.
The best thing that can happen to a human being is that they can stay connected and feel part of something that has value to them. Senior centers do that, and they're not just like I said that we want to be that one-stop shopping to get you to where you need to go, whether it's with us or it's connection in the community or connection in the community as a result of us. So there's just many ways to get there. And I think that's what's so great about the senior centers, the members centers, is they get to know the people in their community and the resources in their community and connect them. The more we can kind of define our senior centers as connections for vitality, I like that
Mhm.
whole that whole line of thinking that it's not going into a nursing home when you come to a senior center. It's just the opposite. It's stay in your community, participate in your community, build your own community, and those those abilities for folks to increase their quality of life, I mean, initially, 80 years ago, the first senior center in Bronx, New York, that's when it started. So that was one 80
Hmm.
years, about 80 years ago. Now there's 10,000 senior centers in the United States, servicing over
Wow.
a million people every day.
Holy cow.
So to look at the evolution of it, that's now. We're going to need to increase the service provision for seniors going forward because they're going to outnumber folks 18 and younger very soon.
Absolutely.
And maybe
So,
1 in 4, and 1 in 4 Rhode Islanders will be senior citizens.
and I think that's usually data indicates 2030, but I think in Rhode Island it's actually accelerated because we have such a high population of individuals over the age of 85. I think we're going to get to that tipping point. I saw something by like 2027. So in the next 5 years, we're going to get to that point. So one of the things that you've said is coming to the senior centers. Um, sometimes as we get older, driving becomes an issue. Do the senior centers, is there transportation to get to the senior centers if somebody doesn't drive? How can do you have vans? How can people actually get there if they don't have a car?
So each center does it a little bit differently. Some have very robust transportation programs. Some have limited. One of the things here in Coventry, because that's what I can speak to, is we have right now 4 vans that will get seniors here. And also, we also do and a lot of other centers do this as well. I'm not saying this only happens in Coventry by any stretch. But the transport also brings people to do their shopping and
Okay.
their prescriptions. One of the things we were doing before COVID with very limited scope, and now it's a lot broader scope because folks still need that service. There's a lot of folks that don't drive, and there's a lot of people that in rural areas, that's I think one of the biggest issues is making sure people have access when they're out in Foster or out in Western Coventry for us, or out in the northern end of our state. There's a lot of work that's happening on building some transportation options, but there's still a huge need for transportation because one of the things, you can't participate in your community if you can't get there.
Yep.
And that's isolation. So still our broad goal to get transportation as a priority for our seniors and funded because we know the price of gas right now. Never mind repairs and staffing and all those pieces that need to happen, and insurance and all those good things. But one of the things I can say is about senior centers across our state, we want to continue to advocate for access for our seniors, and there's going to be more seniors that have this need going forward. So there's going to be more need for a broader transportation system that meets not just where you live, you get something, it's the whole statewide. There needs to be an option for people to have access to their community.
Yep. And so I wanted to say good morning to Patrick, and Karina Capaldi had a question. Can you only go to a senior center in your town, or can you use senior centers in other towns?
At this point, every center does a little bit differently. We have here in Coventry, like, you can come from anywhere. Some places have memberships, so you have a cost for an in-town person and then a cost for an out-of-town person to be a member.
What do those costs usually range, like ballpark?
Something they vary from free to $20
For the year?
Yep.
Okay. So $20 for a year, and you can go visit, the senior center the next town over maybe, but it's not an exorbitant fee like, oh, you live the next town over, we're going to charge you $100 a month.
No. It's I mean, the thing is most, I mean, not all senior centers are municipally funded. Are private nonprofits. So that one of the things about senior centers is we have to get funding from an average of 6 different funding sources so that we can meet the needs of our seniors.
Wow. That's a lot of management right there.
Yeah, well, there's lots of grant writing that happens. I can tell you every single senior center director is an expert grant writer. You have to be to make sure that your seniors get what they need. And and I can speak for all of them when I say that they are very dedicated to leaving no stone unturned so that they can get maximized funding to make sure that their folks get what they need. So it's a lot of work to get to do the work,
Yep.
a lot of grant writing and it's not just the writing part. Then you have to administer the grant too. So there's a lot of pieces of that. Happens behind the scenes. That
Yep.
you're not a director or running a your own agency. You don't see those pieces of the work, but to get to being in front of you today, there's a lot
Yep.
of things that happen to make sure that that I know that our building is full today, and we're making sure people get what they need. Our
Mhm.
social services are making sure they connect people every minute of the day.
Yep.
We also run a food pantry, so there's always multiple ways that people get into our services. And
Mhm.
that's a great thing. No wrong doors, the way we look at our work, that you can come in from a referral from a doctor, from yourself, from a family member. We work with our police department and we work with our school district. So to be able to make sure that we always have our feelers out to involve someone into service or to what we provide so that they can see what we do.
Right.
And it's like that. What is it? I told two friends, and you told two friends, and so on and so on. Whatever that commercial was.
Yeah.
That communication of, hey, this is what you really do. Oh wow, I didn't even know that. And that's why this is a great opportunity to talk about the great work, because that's one thing I have no
Absolutely.
problem doing, talking.
So Karina had another question, and I don't know if this might actually be something that she'd have to reach out to the specific senior centers involved. But she said, if somebody lives in Providence and they need transportation to a senior center in another town, is transportation available?
Well, there's a program with the state that does non-medical transport to senior centers
Okay.
for seniors. And I can get that information out to you, Deb, and you can get it to her.
Yeah, that's through the MTM program, I believe.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
And they will do that non-emergency medical transportation.
for seniors.
Yep, for individuals who are older, I believe it's $4 each way. If an individual is on Medicaid, the transportation, non-emergency medical transportation, would be free through the Medicaid program. And I can definitely put that information in there. So you've mentioned, the grant writing and all of that. If people wanted to support their senior centers, what is a good way for them to do it? Is it a financial donation? Is it coming to volunteer? Is it offering to teach a class? What would help the senior centers and help the general community be able to help with that connectivity?
Well, I think the three things you said were important, right? We like to have obviously be well funded so we can provide the best service. I also think when we talked about our volunteer corps is coming in and doing something that has meaning for you every day. Like it's good for you. We always look at the win-wins, right? It's good for you to come in and do something for your community. It's great for us because we're providing even more services than we did before you walked in the door. So, your time, your presence, obviously funding, but also coming in to see what we do. Because one of the things I had a lady talk, and it was funny because I was at housing. They had a celebration of Older Americans Month, which is May. We're getting to the ends of it now.
Yep.
It was, I said, I don't know if you've come to the center, because she was wearing a mask. She goes, oh, I take part in the Tai Chi, and I love that place. It's so great, such great people. I said, can you do the commercial for us? She said, I would gladly do the commercial for you. And my point is that just that conversation and that connection and the quality of life improvement, that's a good definition of what senior centers do.
Absolutely.
So I think think it's many ways that you can support your center. I think actually seeing what your center does makes it easier for you to support it, right? You can say whether, this is what they're doing. And I always say, ask, not just what you see, but what else is going on here? Because
Right.
a lot of folks don't, they come in for a certain thing and then they like, oh, you do that too? Oh yeah, we do. Yeah. Oh, you have tax prep? Oh, yeah, we do that too. Oh, you have a lawyer that comes on and can help me if I have an issue? Yes, we do that too. There's so many things that people don't know happen at senior centers, and every center is different, but every center is focused on what the needs of that community of people that come into the center need. So to every center is different. One of the things we're doing as a group is we're touring each other's centers. We talk all the time about best practices and
Yep.
being able to see it. And I'm one of those people. I need to see things. I'm pretty tactile too. I need to like go and check it out.
Yep.
And I think that's what people need to do. Not assume that a senior center is this place that you don't really know anything about, but you have all the preconceived notions that it's something negative, and then come in and see what's there, and then meet the people that are there and ask them what do they think of the place. You might not always get the best answer, but you'll get a very honest answer.
Exactly.
And one of the things senior center directors and their staff do really well is listen to the people that come in so that we can adjust our program to meet those needs.
Yep. And part of that, I think, is also finding the funding. Nicole Albanese says, props to the grant writers. It's a lot of work.
It is. And one thing I like about doing grants is I don't want to be because I do write a lot of grants, and I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty successful at it, but I don't want to write a grant for the sake of writing a grant. I want to implement it, right?
Right.
I want to make sure it's addressing a good need and people are getting the most benefit out of it. Then it's worth when you could put a pen to paper or type a grant and turn letters into money that can get these things to happen for people. It's very fulfilling. It's a real important thing that I think that folks don't see behind the scenes with senior centers. And there's a lot of work to get to the work, but it's worth every second of it because you see the impact.
It's like the duck you see floating on the surface of the lake.
And the legs
all this, yes, the little feet are paddling like crazy, but the duck looks so serene. I think that's a lot of what it's like. I did have one last question. For the senior centers, are resources available in multiple languages? So it's not just for folks who speak English that, perhaps if someone speaks Spanish or other languages, can they get help at the senior centers too?
Absolutely. We utilize the language bank, but we also have, it's great because a lot of our centers are in diverse neighborhoods, right? And you have to reflect the people that, your staff and your board should reflect the people that live in that area, right? You need to have membership.
Yep.
Membership, and we talk about access, right? Language barrier is a big barrier to access. And if you don't have that capacity, you don't do your job, right? You're not able to fulfill your mission if it's only for people that speak this language, or it's only for people that, act this way. It should be one of the things about community access is for the whole community, not just a segment of the community. And I think that's a real important question when it comes to equity.
Yeah.
That we need to have equal access for everyone in that community so that they all can benefit from it. And there's multiple, like I said, no wrong way, no wrong door. There's more than one way to get there. And there's more than one way to be successful at it too.
The song, hop on a bus, Gus, make a new plan, Stan, just get there. Yep. Whatever it takes, just get there, because there's so many different opportunities and resources available at the centers across the state. Bob, I'm really glad that you were able to come on today and dispel some of the myths and share some of the amazing work that's being done at the senior centers. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Stop by, check it out. That's all we ask. You can have your opinion after that, but make it be an informed opinion. And
absolutely.
We do some great stuff at our centers, and we really want more people to come in and check us out.
Perfect. I'll be visiting soon.
Thanks, Deb. I appreciate your time today too.
Absolutely.
And everybody that listened, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody, I'm telling you, the senior centers are really hidden gems, and we want to discover them. There's so much going on there, so many pieces of information and resources and really cool stuff to do. I really encourage you, check out your local senior center. If you have a specific skill that you can teach, consider teaching. If you've got some time, consider volunteering. There's just it is an amazing space to connect multiple generations. So I really encourage you to check it out. And I would be remiss if I did not say that this is Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day is a day where we honor those servicemen and women who did not come home. And it is also a weekend where those who are serving or who have served are thinking of their partners, their fellow service members who did not come home. So if you see someone out there this weekend who has served, let them know that you appreciate their sacrifice and that you mourn the loss of their brothers and sisters in arms too. Take a moment and say thank you. Of course, anytime you see them in a coffee shop, grab them a coffee too. But I hope that you are all going to have a wonderful week. I will see you next Friday. And in the meantime, be well and be kind.
If you like this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.